Recorded Books presents an unabridged recording of The Great Shame and the Triumph of the Irish in the English-Speaking World by Thomas Keneally. Narrated by John McDonough. This work is copyrighted 1998 by the Serpentine Publishing Company, Limited. This recording is copyrighted 2000 by Recorded Books. The author opens with the following preface. After Steven Spielberg's film Schindler's List revived interest in the story that I had told in my novel, I was frequently thanked for having documented on a human scale, through jaunty, disreputable Oskar Schindler, the Jewish catastrophe of the Second World War. I had stumbled on the story, written it with passion because it was a great tale, and now, with a delighted and slightly guilty bemusement, found that people, particularly the Jewish community throughout the world, were talking to me as if I had done something larger, had to an extent validated the past for those who had lived through it, and had restored their history to their children. What of my own past? I was Australian, and I knew that my name and ancestors were Irish. I knew vaguely that I had some forebears who were convicts, one of them a John Keneally who served time in Western Australia as a political prisoner. I discovered, too, that I had married the great-granddaughter of what one historian calls a protest criminal, a so-called ribbon man, sent from Ireland to Australia for life in the decade before the Irish famine, which began in 1845. This, if it is a boast, is not such an uncommon one in Australia, even if earlier generations of Australians would have suppressed what they then perceived as genealogical stains. I knew that throughout the 19th century, until the last shipload of Fenian prisoners arrived in Western Australia in 1868, and until the last political prisoner had died in exile well into the 20th century, Australia was the potential punishment that hung over all protest, political activism, and revolt in the British Empire. Over the Chartists of Britain, the French habitants of Lower Canada, and the Republicans of Upper Canada, but in particular over gestures of protest and rebellion in Ireland. I wanted to try to tell the tale of the Irish in the New World and the Old through the experiences of those transported to Australia for gestures of social and political dissent. The suppression of dissent in Ireland, of course, marked both Ireland itself, the point of departure, and Australia, the shore of exile. But Australia's place as a zone of sub-Antarctic political punishment would also influence the intense and fatally riven Irish politics of emigrant societies in the United States, Britain, and Canada, and I wanted to try to tell some of that tale.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?